What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. If you are listening to the podcast, it is likely Friday, December the 10th. Well, I guess it could be Saturday too, because this is the pick show for Sunday, our best bets show. If you're watching on YouTube live, it is Thursday, December 9th. You can also watch on YouTube Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you're watching, smash that like button. Hit the like button. Maybe we'll give away a hat, a Prisco Sucks hat or something like that. But reminder, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, we go live on our YouTube channel and give away hats and recap the prime time games. We're also live every Thursday doing the pick show and every Tuesday at 1 p.m. doing Ryan Wilson hosts a mock draft show, which, as he points out, the best part about it, no me. So there you go. You can check that out. Joining me to do the best bet show for week 14 already. Pete Prisco and RJ White. What's up, fellas?
What's going on? The jackass that sent in the review that said the show was better without me. Dude, really? Bring it, buddy.
He was maybe he was in your jury room, Pete. Pete was on jury duty. He was on jury duty for like it was like 2 full days.
It was 2 full days.
Yeah.
I thought it would be 2 hours at most.
you called like on Tuesday. You're like, oh, I'll be fine. Oh, no, you called on like Monday night. You're like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, I'll just go in for 2 hours.
No,
and then 48 hours later, you look refreshed, though. I think it may be interacting with strangers. You look, no, you didn't have to do it, Brady Quinn. You look refreshed and happy and tan.
No, it was, I missed doing my pick show yesterday with Brady, though. I sent in my information for spinning top of the week, and they couldn't use it.
Who was it?
It was the Seattle offensive line. It was pathetic last week. Even Dwayne Brown, who's a good player, got whipped up pretty good.
And they still managed to win. RJ, what's up, buddy?
Yeah.
Still managed to win. Still managed to score way over the total that I had the under on because a 73-yard fake punt run up the middle for a touchdown. It's like, at that point you're like, just never going to work out.
With the things
aside from that play, they had like 3.8 yards per game in that game.
Yeah,
in that game, the offense didn't play well, and they somehow got to 30 and just easily blew that kick out of the water.
It was like halfway through the second quarter, they're rushing. It was like Russell Wilson, 4 carries, 9 yards. Adrian Peterson, 3 carries, 5 yards, 1 touchdown. Travis Homer, 1 carry, 73 yards and a touchdown. It's just very bizarre. It was very fluky. Seattle folks think they won the table.
In rewatching that game, it's hard to believe they even won that thing.
It really is. Seattle people are trying to get their hopes up that the Seahawks can run the table and finish 9-8. They have 3 easy games, but they've got to beat the Rams and the Cardinals, I believe, in week 18. So, I mean, it's not out of the question, but unlikely. Anywho, last week, I had a really bad week against the spread in our overall picks, but I actually finished above 500 with my best bets 3 and 2. Prisco goes 3 and 3. RJ 2 and 4. RJ 40 and 37. Pete 42 and 39. So I guess you guys are actually tied percentage wise, right?
I'm a little bit ahead because I've made fewer picks, so he's a little bit closer to 500, but we're essentially tied.
Essentially tied. You're right. And Pete has more wins technically, et cetera, et cetera. I am still 10 games.
I put my neck on the line more than RJ does every week. Brinson, I still can't believe I look at these totals and you're 37 and 47. Some of those weeks you had like 11 picks. How do you only have that 84 picks?
I don't know. I did like 5 last week. I mean, look, I'm fighting an uphill battle. I got like 8 this week though. I think I like the card this week. So we're gonna get hot. I'm gonna finish above 500 with these best bets. The won't hit, can't hit parlay didn't hit again. Bears +8, Bucs Falcons over, and Rams -13. The Rams got there. I'm trying to remember if what lost the parlay?
The Bears didn't. Both the Bears and the over. The over didn't quite get there. They would 30 to 17.
The Bears, it's 7-0. They're going down to make it 7-7, and Cole Kmet fumbles and turns into an interception, and then they're behind 2 scores. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, they were never really.
I knew when we all had the Bears that thing had gone crappy.
Yeah, they only lost by 11, so it's not like it was that far out. And we have 47 points from the. That parlay was fairly close to hitting. I mean, if the Falcons just score more than the Falcons had a goal line, the Bucs had a goal line stand at the end. If the Falcons get a touchdown there, that over hits, and then the Bears probably had a look to cut. I mean, the Bears probably should have found a way to lose less than 8. I mean, they lost by 11. Kyler Murray was awesome, though.
Another one of my misses was in that Bucs game. I had over 30.5 points on the Bucs. They scored 30 off a missed extra point. So it was just that week. You know, it's the same over and over. You have these picks that you're like, why couldn't he just make his extra points?
Make the extra point. Exactly.
Because the kickers in this league stink.
The kickers are not
Every
good.
day I sit there. I mean, I don't know how these coaches deal with these idiots. That's all they're paid to do is kick. Make your damn kicks.
All right, let's get to the picks. We actually have Rams at Cardinals on Monday Night Football. All three of us have a pick, so you can get to lock in your Monday Night Football. Oh boy, Monday Night Football pick early if you so choose, depending on what side you like. Rams are at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are -2.5. The over/under 51.5 here. Pete, the Cardinals. I mean, look, the Cardinals probably deserve more credit than they're getting. This is a team that has, answered every question that has really been asked of them, including winning games with Kyler Murray injured and DeAndre Hopkins out, with Colt McCoy under center, and yet just 2.5-point favorites against the team they stomped only a few weeks ago in the Los Angeles Rams at home in primetime.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't think they get enough respect. I mean, what are they, third in scoring differential? I mean, that tells you they're a good team, and they played, 3 games?
The defense is good this year, which is a rarity.
They're really good. They're fourth in the league, and
fourth in points allowed. Yep.
And so I think when you look at them, they're undervalued. But my pick here is going to be the under. You mentioned the defense. I think that defense is better than people give it credit for, and I think the Rams defense is still, top notch and could be one of those that could disrupt the entire thing with that front. So I do think the Cardinals will win the game, but I'm going to take the under as my best bet in this game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring.
Well, yeah, you say that Arizona isn't getting much respect, but I mean, this line was 3 and it came down because I don't know if you saw it, but the Rams rolled last week. The Rams are back, baby. They beat the Jaguars. I don't think that really counts for anything. If you beat Jacksonville, they were 0-5 against the spread before that game. So credit to them for covering against one of the easiest teams in the league. Arizona's offense benefited from short fields last week to score 33, but the important thing is Kyler Murray looked healthy. And you mentioned he dominated that first meeting. If he's healthy, I think he could do the same here. Rams need to win to stay in division race, so you might see motivation Rams, to go ahead and do this. But it's the same motivation for the Cardinals because they can put away the division essentially by beating the Rams here and earning the tiebreaker, and maybe even getting Week 18 rest if you can lock up the bye, going into that week. So I'm glad that we're able to lay less than 3 and that it came down because I love Arizona. So my best bet's gonna be Arizona -2.5.
I am taking the Rams. I'm going head to head with RJ here in a game. I don't know why I like the Rams so much in this spot. Matthew Stafford. There's like a debate about whether or not he's hurt, and he said that he's not hurt. There's been reports out there that he's dealing with injuries. The total tells me that that Vegas believes the Rams will be able to score pretty easily in this game. And I think they should be able to. One of the concerns, there's a good article in the Ringer by Stephen Ruiz, I think, where basically breaking down that Sean McVay's play calling has tended over the last couple of years to get kind of predictable in the second half of the season. And I think that's a bigger concern than Matthew Stafford's injuries, that they've got to figure out how to get a little less stale. We saw the Rams, or I guess we've seen games in this division where the underdog is a little more desperate, needs it a little bit more. You're catching points in a massive divisional game where, frankly, the Rams need to win this game just to avoid falling into that lower tier of playoff contenders. I just think LA finds a way here. I don't really have a great logic for it. The Cardinals are kind of scary, and it's only 2.5, so I don't blame anybody for backing the Cardinals. I will take the Rams though, and I think they win outright. I don't mind that total, Pete. I like the idea that that's a pretty high total.
It is. It's particularly for a rematch.
Yeah. And late in the season in a divisional game with two teams that are not afraid to run the ball a bunch. Speaking of divisional games, the Dallas Cowboys -4 at Washington with an over/under of 48. Dak Prescott 7-1 straight up, 6-2 against the spread in his career versus WFT. The over, by the way, 7-1 in those games. 21-6 straight up in his career division starts for Dak, which is ridiculous. 19-7-1 against the spread. Has just 17 TDs to 1 interception against the WFTs in his career. But in concerning news for Dak Prescott, his coach Mike McCarthy came out and quasi-guaranteed a win on Thursday for the Cowboys. He just said, we feel really confident we're going to win this game. And while maybe he's just saying, coach speak, it did come off a little surprising, Pete.
It did. That's not usually Mike McCarthy which is a little surprising. But you know what? Guarantees. What do they mean? Is it going to make his team play harder? Washington play harder? Once you get hit in the mouth, you go play. You know how I feel about that stuff. It's going to impact the game. None. I like Washington in the game. I'm going to take the points. I think they can win this game outright. I just think the Cowboys are playing consecutive road games, and I know they had a little time off, but that's always tough. And they just don't look right on offense. And I think you can move the ball on them on defense. Heineke's played good football, and so the defense has made big strides in Washington without Chase Young and without Sweat. And it's all because Jonathan Allen and those guys on the interior are dominating up front. And the corners have improved. I mean, the corners were terrible early in the season. They got that much better. So I'm going to take Washington. I think you're going to win the game outright. I said that last week with Pittsburgh. They won the game outright. I think Washington's in that same spot here. I think they win the game outright. You won't need the points.
This line opened 5, Dallas -5, came down to 4, and I think that's about where it should be. We saw it. Now it's at 4.5. So I guess when Mike McCarthy guarantees a win, that's worth a half point to the line for some reason. So good job to the bettors there for backing up his words. Dallas pass offense finally able to all practice together. They've been guys have been out left and right and COVID and all this stuff. So I think they'll have success. Even though the Washington defense has improved, I think the pass offense can get going. Washington's on a roll, 4 straight wins. I think kind of due for a letdown when you get on that kind of winning streak. They jumped in the playoff race. They're in playoff hunt now, and you just kind of see it with these teams that they don't continue to ascend. They now have to face a little bit of adversity, and they will make it back. Dallas also got DeMarcus Lawrence back last week. That's huge for their pass rush, and if they're ahead, that helps stop the backdoor cover if you're getting better pass rush. So I was leaning to the Cowboys at -4. Now that it's 4.5, I'm a little less on that. I'm probably staying away from this game at this number. I can see the argument for both sides. But with how many games Washington's winning in a row, you figure that this would be a 3-point game. And the reason it's not, I think, is because the odds makers are seeing what Mike McCarthy's seeing, and Dallas is going to go win this game.
I got Washington as the best bet as well, +4. I loved it when I saw and obviously you prefer 4.5 if you can get it. Look, the numbers from Dak are terrifying, that he plays that well against division opponents, that he is covering the spread at that higher rate, but it's still a road divisional game. And, Washington I understand that there is reason to believe that this team might sort of, as RJ points out, fall back down. There's also reason to believe that this is sort of what Ron Rivera is able to get out of a less than stellar roster in the second half of the season, because we saw it last year too. They started 2-6, became the first team since 1970 to make the playoff. I don't know, it's a long time to make the playoffs after starting 2-6. They started 2-6 this year, and now the defense has been playing really well since week 7. I believe they haven't given up more than 24 points. That was to the Packers. Coming out of the bye, they've been locking teams down. Tougher test, obviously, with Dallas, but Mike McCarthy back in the saddle now. Let's not forget that this Dallas team is prone to doing some dumb things offensively, as in they just feed Zeke Elliott way too much. They don't utilize their best players, and it puts them in a position where they're sort of forced to make less than EV decisions in terms of how they distribute the ball with Dak. I think Taylor Heineke, I don't think he's some top level starter. I think he's good enough to win these games, or at least keep them competitive. Cowboys might win, but I think it's less than a field goal or less with the Cowboys winning the game. So I'll take Washington +4 as a best bet. Oh man, what a game we have for you on CBS on Sunday afternoon. The Bills at the Bucs. I mean, I'm assuming this is Nance Romo and Tracy Wolfson. Bucs -3.5, over under 53.5. This is a tough spot for Buffalo, Pete. They are coming off the Monday night game. So short week. You're going down to Tampa to play a guy in Tom Brady, who I believe is 32-3 all time against the Bills. Different team, obviously, but he's owned the Bills in his career. He has his longest win streak against any one opponent is 13 games against the Bills. His 5th longest win streak against any opponent is 9 games, and it is currently going on against the Bills. So he gets a chance to extend it to 10 here. I mean, it's an unbelievable tough spot for the Bills. I'm surprised the line is a little bit higher. What do you like in this game?
I like the over. I think you're going to see a lot of points. I think Tampa Bay's defense is bad. and they're playing bad. I mean, they have the talent to be playing much better, and I know they're getting guys back week by week in the secondary, but they should be better than what they are. And so I think Josh Allen, after that, horrible wind game, I can't stand the wind. I hate the wind. Ruins football.
That was fun.
I don't mind the snow. I don't mind the cold, the bitter cold, the snow, but the wind just takes the game and makes it, 1920s again. It's awful. And he even ripped a few through the wind, which is incredible. I don't know how he did it. But I think that he's going to get back to throwing the ball all over the place in this game against those people in the secondary who are struggling back there. And on the other side, I think the Bucs will still score. The Buffalo defense has some concerns, but I think they're built more so to play the pass than they are to run. And we saw that the other night. They got gashed. So I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. For that reason, I'm going to take the over.
They're built more to play the pass, but they lost their best cornerback, and it didn't really come back to bite them. And when Mac Jones is throwing 3 passes, but this is where you have to face Brady without Tre'Davious White. I don't know that pass defense is going to have success. The defense for the Bucs did look suspect against Atlanta. They're not that good, but they still are the Super Bowl favorites. And Buffalo might not even make the playoffs. They're sitting at the 7th seed now. If they lose this game, who knows? They have I believe the Panthers after that, and then the Patriots again. So, I mean, you get to the last few games, and they might be looking at an uphill battle. I think the Buffalo offense, when it's playing at its best and it's having a good day, can go blow for blow with Tampa Bay, especially with that defense not playing great. But they are inconsistent. They could also fall apart and look terrible. And I just don't know what Buffalo we're going to get week in and week out. If we're getting the good Buffalo offense, then this spread could go either way. It's probably close to 50-50. Like it a lot better when at the Tampa side when it was -3, obviously. Now it's up a little bit high. But even if it's 3 on a neutral, I'm leaning Tampa. In Tampa, I love it. So even at 3.5, I made Tampa best bet.
I got the Bills as a best bet. Fun times. I'm head-to-head with RJ in 2 of the biggest games of the week. What could possibly go wrong? Look, the 3.5, that's pretty key here because I think this could end up being a close game. It's if you're betting on at Caesars, the Bills are plus 3.5 minus 115, which means that this line is more likely than not to drift down to 3 as opposed to going in the opposite direction. I do agree with you, Pete, that I think we'll see plenty of passing here and plenty of scoring. And so one of the arguments for the Bills is that their pass defense is the best in football, but that doesn't that was the rating before the win game. I guess the win game would technically help them and not hurt them, but they also haven't played a game without Tre'Davious White, which has to be concerning if you're Buffalo. So, I mean, I think Tom Brady's going to score and be able to pass the ball pretty easily. They've played great at home, but I don't think, to your point, that the Bucs can slow down the Buffalo offense. I mean, this is a Bills offense that should come in this game. Like, the Bills are too good a team to come off of that loss to New England and just hang their head and give up on the season and call it off. I mean, this is a really good Bills team. I'm not buying all the internal strife that's being bandied about after Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde didn't want to answer a dumbass question from Jerry Sullivan, who asked if they were embarrassed. I think this is a good Bills team with a good coaching staff, a ton of talent across the board on the roster, and they're going to go down there on Monday night. Josh Allen plays well in primetime. They've been embarrassed. They know the Bucs will probably try and run the football. I think they'll have a better game against the run. And then I think we'll see Josh Allen rip some nice throws in some very clean Tampa weather. I do think we'll see plenty of scoring. I think Buffalo keeps it within a field goal here. So give me the Bills. What do you think about Jerry Sullivan, by the way, Pete? You know him? I don't know him.
I don't know him. I know of him. Look, we've been around this league a long time, and there's always 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 beat guys that, make it about themselves instead of getting the answer to the question that they really want. And there's a right way and a wrong way. Look, I've had plenty of run-ins with players in my time because of the questions I asked, and plenty of run-ins with coaches because of the questions I asked. But you don't do it in a way where you embarrass them or try to and make them look bad. I thought that was – I didn't like it, but I've seen it over and over where they make it more about themselves than trying to get the actual answer to the question.
Back in my day, people answered those questions. Like, what are you talking? What do you mean back in your day? Do you play?
Back in his day, they would have thrown a helmet at him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Brady Quinn and I were saying too on the pod. Is like on earlier this week on the BQ FBS or Brady Quinn football show. It's like we were like, what if Pete? We're like, can't you see Pete? Like, not that you would ask that kind of question in the public setting, but you would ask questions to them heads up. Like you weren't afraid to ask honest questions. And we're like, yeah, like I was like, Pete has like tons of stories of like people like thinking about beating him, like players who were like contemplating beating him up because of what he wrote.
Blowing my car up. I had one of those once back in the day.
Blow your car up. I remember that.
On the practice field. He yelled it.
Can you imagine if somebody said that now? Like you.
Oh,
like,
no.
Like, I'll blow your car up, Prisco.
No way.
You're like,
no way.
Were you scared when you got in your car?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's not going to. Guess he's not going to.
I had a player pull me over, like when I was driving down a road in Jacksonville, and he came up next to me, and he rolled down his window and saw me and looked at me and put his fist up. And I go, get out of here, and I sped away from him. Look, that went on way more back in the day, and I'm going to say it like an old guy, because before social media, they could get away with stuff.
That's right. Things were a lot different back in the day. You know what you couldn't do? If you needed to get a custom-made suit back in the day, you couldn't.
Indochino.
You couldn't do it online. That's right. And now, thanks to look, it's we got Christmas parties we got to go to. You got to look sharp. You got to be out in the town. You can't be walking around dressed like a schlub. You need everything to be tight, and that's where Indochino comes into play. I can personally attest to the fact that if you shop on Indochino.com, it is next level customization. You measure everything: neck, shoulders, lats, stomach, ribs. I don't know. You measure everything. There's like so many pieces. I didn't even know that you needed to measure for a custom suit. Now I understand why the little tailor stands there and does the thing with the he's measuring you, and you come away incredibly pleased at the product that you receive from Indochino, because it makes you feel confident, stylish. It fits perfectly, absolutely tailored to perfection. And let's say you want to put you want a little monogram on the sleeve or on the pocket. That all comes included. Indochino offers custom fitted suits, shirts, casual wear, and more at surprisingly affordable prices. Get a wardrobe personalized to your style and taste without spending a fortune. As I mentioned, you can get everything, customize every detail: fabric, lapel, monogram, statement linings. You can create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly. The best part, Indochino suits start from just $429 and shirts from $79 with all customizations included. So give yourself a custom closet revamp with Indochino, or give the gift of great style with an Indochino gift card for your holiday of choosing. Get $50 off any purchase of $3.99 or more by using promo code PICK6, PICKSIX, at Indochino.com. That's $50 off a purchase of $3.99 or more at INDOCHINO.com. Promo code PICK6. Next game up, the Raiders at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are minus 9.5 with an over-under of 48. The Raiders are averaging 18.8 points per game over their last 5 and have the worst third down conversion percentage, 22%, in the NFL. The Chiefs, 5-0 their last 5 games, with the best third down defensive conversion percentage at 26%. Do the Chiefs keep it up? Are the Raiders just doing their annual swan song here, Pete? That's what it kind of feels like, with the caveat that they lost their number one receiver and their head coach in the last 2 months.
Yeah, they've had to deal with the time. It's hard to deal with that stuff. I mean, people don't think it is, but it is. And I think that's starting to show up. And look, the last time the Chiefs played them, they destroyed them. They dominated them. That was the best offensive performance of the year for them. They haven't been good on offense like that since. But I think they're going to get back to that. And their defense is playing great football. The Chiefs, they finally made the move. Now, Chris Jones is inside where he should have been all along. That was a bad decision. I think Ingram has helped them with the edge rush. And the secondary people are like Snead's playing better. The young linebackers are running to the football. They're much better. And so I think that defense will limit that offense. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored, but I think the Chiefs offense will be a lot better than it's been at times. And I think they'll score enough to cover this number. It's a big number, the division game, particularly a second division game, but I'm going to lay it anyways.
Yeah, if you get the Chiefs offense that you had in that Raiders game the first time, and they're going to win this one running away and easily cover. But like you said, we haven't seen that offense since that game. That was a fake cover by them against the Broncos last week. The offense looked pretty awful in that game. Should have been like a 13-10 type of final. And, they just somehow Denver didn't cover that. So Vegas done Dallas on Thanksgiving. They scored 16 or less in their other 4 games since the bye. So that offense is not looking good. That Chiefs defense makes me look under on any highest number for their total, but the total's been coming down all week. So if you didn't get it early in the week, I don't know if I'm playing it at 48 because it's already dropped 4 points. I am playing the Raiders plus 9.5 as a best bet. I'm just going to keep going back to the well with this Chiefs offense not looking great, expecting these low scoring games that they win closely rather than running away. So I got the Raiders.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, I completely blanked out.
Hey, wake up over there!
I was coordinating some things. I've got the Chiefs here, and I almost made it a best bet. I ended up passing just because I had a big enough card where I didn't think I needed to add one more. It's a huge number, and the Raiders, maybe this is their last gasp at trying to make a playoff run, but it just feels like, they had those 2 wins going into the bye, and it was just like, like an emotional letdown. You got a head coach who's never done this before. You have Derek Carr, who was having a really good season and still is, but just doesn't have the weapons out there. And the defense wasn't going to hold up its end of the bargain for the full season. I didn't think. The question is, can the Chiefs, be more efficient on offense? The defense has held teams. I think they had to lay by score. I think they've given up 56 total points in their 5-0 run. I would think that they can limit the Raiders as well with the lack of a deep threat, depending on how much they get Deshaun Jackson involved. But I tend to lean towards the Chiefs here. Didn't make it a best bet, but I think the Chiefs could blow them out. Certainly there is backdoor potential here for Derek Carr and the Raiders. And I agree with you, Pete. I don't think we'll see a ton of points. The under is not a terrible look here, even though this matchup has gone over each of the last 3 times these teams have played. Jaguars at the Titans. Titans are minus 8.5 with an over-under of 43.5, Pete. The Jaguars, as you've pointed out, and I credit you every time I talk about this on radio this week. People are like, what do you, it's like, so ask about like the Trevor Lawrence thing, right? Because he's averaging like 5.5 yards per attempt or something just miserable. Maybe it's like 4.5. I tweeted it out. But people are like, what's wrong with Lawrence? I'm like, well, as Pete Prisco likes to point out, because you're locked in on the Jacksonville stuff, this James Robinson thing is ridiculous. Like Urban Meyer's like, I don't know. I don't know what the running back rotation is. What do you mean you don't know what the running back rotation is? Maybe he's just a figurehead, Pete. Maybe he's not even in charge down there. Just a figurehead coach. Your thoughts?
He is a figurehead. Hey, that's a good word. I like that word. Look, that place is a disaster. It's with a capital D across the board. And offensively, they are so predictable. They don't have anybody who can win outside. And what he's done to James Robinson is criminal. Why did he put him back in the game at the end of the game last week to carry it twice when the game was decided by 30 points? They have no idea what they're doing. Players are starting to push back. It's a problem. And this is a bad combination. You have a bad team going on the road in the division after playing a road game, coming all the way back and not getting back until, started again until Monday morning because you flew all night. And you got a rested team coming off a bye. Bad combination. Not only that, add in the history. They've dominated them in Nashville. I think the Jaguars have won 4 times since 2003 in Nashville. This will be a beatdown. The defense has been okay at times, and they're starting to get to the point where they're getting, beat down because they don't have any offensive help, and it's starting to show. It's bleeding over. So I'm going to take Tennessee minus the 8.5. It's a big number, but I'm taking it.
Yeah, and yet with all those things you say, the Sharps have pounded this on Jacksonville and moved it down. It was double digits, and now it's down to 8.5. So with that move, I kind of like them. Jacksonville at double digits. I'm not going to play them here. Their defense is terrible, but they have a shot at not getting trounced against a beat-up Tennessee offense. I don't know what to expect from the offense. I think that's why the numbers come down. How can you lay so many points with the Titans offense that you just don't know what it is at this point? Jacksonville's offense's best game came against Tennessee in week 5, 454 total yards, 198 rushing yards. Maybe they can get back to the ground game here and make it work and keep this game close. So my lean would be to Jacksonville, but because it's already come down so much, I'm not looking to play it.
I've got the Titans as a best bet as well. Riding with Pete here. Ryan Tannehill versus please. I'm over 500 last 3 weeks on my best bets. Tannehill 4-0 versus the Jaguars. I feel like it should be 5-0, but whatever. 74% completions, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 10.3 yards per attempt. He will get Julio Jones back this week. That doesn't seem like it should matter that much, but Julio could go nuclear on this Jaguar secondary. And they need him.
Supposed to be be back this week, though.
Who is?
Griffin.
Okay.
Exactly.
That matters. Still, like having Julio there just as a true number one wide receiver instead of having like Nick Westbrook-Ikini as your top guy is a massive difference. And the Titans ran really well in their last game against the Patriots. Had 200-yard rushers in that game with Dante Foreman and Hilliard there. The other thing that is I was shocked to find, and I actually found this on my own, but it was in our research packet that we get from our excellent CBS Sports HQ research team. I wish I hadn't bothered to go look myself because they did a better job with it. But Mike Vrabel off the bye. Mike Vrabel off the bye. He is 3-0 off the bye, straight up and against the spread, including 2 outright wins as an underdog, beating the 2018 Cowboys, who were a 10-6 team, and the 2020 Buffalo Bills, who were a 13-win team, and he smoked the Jaguars in 2019. For whatever, Vrabel's just great off the bye, and I think it continues here. I think they'll be able to move the ball easily against Jacksonville, run up the score, and beat the Jaguars by 21 points. This Jaguars team, winless on the road, a pathetic organization, pathetic franchise at this point. And, you know, like you don't want to
They should fire Urban Meyer, okay? Let me put that out there. I said it on their airwaves many a time. Never got in trouble for it either, amazingly. But he needs to go.
He needs to go. Like, if this dude ruins Trevor Lawrence because he can't figure out how to operate an NFL franchise, it's going to be really disappointing. And then,
he's got the biggest coaching staff in the league. I mean, it's a bad staff. It's a bad situation. Get him out.
Get the figurehead out of there. Lions at the Broncos. Broncos minus 8.5, hosting the now no longer winless Detroit Lions with an over-under of 42. The Lions are 1-10-1 straight up, but 8-4 against the spread. Just incredible. Pete, I'm curious how the Lions respond, because I think a lot of teams would be popping the champagne to get that one win. I kind of feel like Dan Campbell might be able to keep them motivated to try to go chase another W.
Well, they've been in most every game. I mean,
8-4 against the spread is incredible.
I had him as a best bet last week. I loved him last week, and I like him this week. I'm going to put him in as best bet this week. That number's too big. The Denver offense stinks. Let's be real. I mean, with all the weapons they have on the outside, the offense is limited at times, and I think it has a lot to do with Teddy Bridgewater, and I do think that the Lions will hang around. I mean, they looked decent on offense last week. Jared Goff made some good plays last week, so I'm going to take the Lions at the 8.5 as one of my best bets. I'm riding with the Lions, baby.
Yeah, Denver's offense is not great. They'll have a much easier time in this matchup. A lot of offenses are going to look bad against that Chiefs defense. Goff had a rare good day in the win, but Denver's number 4 in points per drive allowed. So I don't know that the Lions are going to score a ton of points here. I do know it's definitely a letdown spot when you get your first win this late in the season that I don't expect much from a team. The next week, desperation's gone for Detroit. So it feels like a 30-13 type of game for me. So, you know, Detroit, he said 8-4 against the spread. They covered 4 straight. It felt like this number was going down. People were on Detroit. It moved down to 7.5. So I'm like, I might be able to get 7 here before I lay it with Denver. And then it shot back up to 8.5. So, you know, they're not letting it creep any lower than 8. People are going to be on Denver. But rather than just lay the points with Denver, which I think is fine, I tease this one under 3 to get it to -2.5 as part of my teaser. And I'm hoping that, you know, the people will play it down a little more and I can get 7.5 before I lay the number with Denver, because I think that's the side I want to be on here.
Well, it doesn't look like you're going to get 7.5 because it's up to 10 at Caesars now at this point. My goodness. Pete,
why don't I get the 10?
Nah, you get the 8.5. You can retract your best bet if you want, though.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. I like the under here as a best bet, under 42. It is, of course, a low number, but the Broncos have gone under in their last 6. They are 10-2 to the under on the year. They have a conservative head coach in Vic Fangio. They have a conservative play caller, Pat Sherman. They have a conservative quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, and they're going to try and run the ball effectively with, by the way, I love Javonte Williams. I don't know, Debo, see if the Caesars have any props up for Javonte Williams, if you don't mind scrolling over. I'm just curious to see, because I think no Melvin Gordon. No, you got to go up. Go up to player props. Nope, they don't have them. So I just think Javonte Williams is going to eat in this game. It's a great matchup for him. He's an outstanding young player. I mean, I watched him destroy NC State at Carolina, and he looked incredible against the Chiefs on Sunday night. I think he has another big game, and I think the Broncos will lean on that. The Lions have gone under in all 5 of their road games this season, and the Broncos, in terms of cumulative points allowed per game, like the team, each team and their opponent on average, Broncos 39.7 total points on the season. That is the lowest by far in the NFL. The only team under 40 total points. 42 is a really low over/under, but I think we can get there with 2 offenses that will be pretty lethargic. And Detroit's not going to try and get crazy. They're going to they're like the conservative boxer that hangs around and tries to just stay within range, striking distance. So I will take the under as a best bet. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, will the Bengals fall from grace continue? Next. The 49ers at the Bengals. 49ers are -1. This was Bengals -1.5. I guess it's moved pretty substantially. Over under 48.5, which is quite a bit, quite a few points. By the way, 49ers now -1.5. So if you like the Niners, I do. Get it in now. The over 5-1 in the last 6 Bengals games. And would you believe me if I told you that the number 2 and number 3 quarterbacks in terms of pass or yards per pass attempt are playing in this game? Jimmy G and Joe Burrow are 2 and 3 behind Kyler Murray. I didn't even believe it when I saw it.
Jimmy G's actually played decent football for them.
Yeah, yes.
Which begs the question,
what do you think about this game?
why in the hell did you pick Trey Lance?
Yeah, well, there you go. Niners -1.5, over under 48.5. What do you think?
I don't really like this game. This is a tough game for me. It really was. And because I know the Niners are playing back-to-back road games, which I hate. But not only that, the Bengals are desperate right now. I think both teams are desperate. It's kind of like a pseudo little playoff game. But I do think the Bengals will play well in this game. And I'd lean to the Bengals just because I think Burrow is due for another big game. He hasn't had a big explosive game in a long time. He played well last week. He just got beat up. He got beat up physically last week. They were down 2 linemen, and it showed up on the tape. So I'm going to take the Bengals, but I don't love the game at all.
It was Cincy -1 early in the week, and I took San Francisco +1 on Sportsline at that time. It moved on early Wednesday or late Tuesday to San Francisco -1.5. I think Debo just sent the wrong team favored when he sent us the lines there. But both teams have been hot. They're now coming off a loss. San Francisco's defense played well despite the final score. We talked about how Seattle's yards per play was pretty low, and they should not have scored that many points in the game. Looks like Fred Warner could be back in this game. I believe he returned to full practice on Wednesday. Since he lost a key linebacker as well. So even if Warner can't play, since he's dealing with the same issue on their side with Logan Wilson hurt, I'm more concerned with Joe Burrow's finger injury. It looked like he struggled to play through it. And I'm also shocked at how bad Cincy's D played early against the Chargers. I wonder if Shanahan can replicate what the Chargers were doing in that game to have some success here. I'm not really worried about the injuries to the San Francisco running backs in this game because they just, rinse and repeat with whoever running backs they have. It seems like every single year, Eli Mitchell was nobody talked about him before the start of the season, and he's become the number 1 running back. So throw whoever you want out there for that running game, they'll get it done. So my lean is still to San Francisco at -1.5, but I'm not playing it when I already took it at +1 earlier in the week.
I got the 49ers. Yeah, I put in the bet. I thought we were betting it at +1, but yeah, what am I getting on this, Devo, for my line? -1.
Yeah, RJ, that sound fair?
Yeah.
-1.
-1 was what we sent out to bet on. Now it's obviously -1.5. If I would take I'm a sucker, obviously, but I would just lay -125 rather than the -1.5 if I had missed one, mainly because I'm petrified for the 49ers to win by 1. I do think we see a ton of points in this game. This is a spot where the Bengals have really been opening things up, and this is 49ers secondary susceptible. The 49ers also, even with, when they have Deebo Samuel, and I would say this is sort of dependent on Deebo Samuel being in there just because they were averaging over 170 rush yards per game when Deebo, in the 3 games that they won, where Deebo was in the backfield getting carries. It just opened up the flow of their offense. It made life easier on the running backs. It made life easier on Jimmy Garoppolo. I expect Debo comes back and is ready to go for this game. I think they're able to put up plenty of points against a Bengals defense that has had a pretty dramatic slide backwards in terms of points allowed over the last 6 games. That's why those overs have been hitting. And I like the 49ers as a best bet. I think the 49ers are still very much alive in the playoff conversation. And if they can get to the postseason with Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle healthy and get one, they've got to get some of these running backs healthy too. I think it can be a pretty big problem in the playoffs if they get there. Giants at Chargers.
They did lose at Seattle last week, by the way, just to remind you.
Of course they did. But as you point out, you watched the game, you looked at the stats, you watched the offensive line. They should have won.
But shoulda, coulda, woulda. They didn't.
Well, but I'm saying they're 3-1 with a loss, with a weird loss. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Giants and Chargers. Chargers are -10, over under 43. A ton of injuries and COVID list situations in this game. The Giants are likely starting Jake Fromm. I don't know.
It looks like it's going to be Jake Fromm.
I didn't feel comfortable asking Mike if he's clear, if Glennon, if you're like, hey, what's your, how's your head doing? But I think he's doing fine, but concussion protocol is probably going to keep him out. Daniel Jones, I think, can't play or has been ruled out in this game. Probably going to be Jake from State Farm, friend of the podcast, by the way. The Chargers won't have Keenan Allen for this game. Additionally, Mike Williams has been placed on the COVID list, but he is only a close contact and is vaccinated, I believe. So
is Chris Harris. So
is Chris Harris. So both of those guys can play if they get 2 negative tests 24 hours apart before Sunday.
You'll know Friday.
Well, yeah, we'll know on Friday. Who you like?
I just can't take the Giants. I just can't. And I don't love the game. It's a big number. I don't care who's playing quarterback. That's a big number for the Chargers. But my lean would be to the Chargers because I just think the Giants last week, their offensive line got just beat up by Miami. Just beat up as it's been getting all year. And I think the Chargers will get all over whoever plays quarterback. So my lean is to the Chargers, but that number is bloated, a little bit too much for my liking. But I would take the Chargers, not a best bet.
I think you're muted, RJ.
Sorry, thanks. I was typing in some stuff. Chargers are coming off just a second win of more than 6 points, but they weren't as dominant as the score looks in that game. Bengals rolled all the way back, even with Burrow's finger injury, and then it kind of got away at the end. I think the Giants continue to play well on defense. They're completely let down by the offense, but the defense has shown up, week in and week out and putting together good games. Fromm likely to start this week, like you said, but it's not like he can do much worse than what we've seen the last few weeks from that offense. Actually, most of the year from that offense. And the offense shouldn't have to throw the ball much. Offense should be run heavy with Saquon against the bad Chargers rush defense. So if that's the game plan going in, I think they can score a few points here. Chargers have to face Kansas City on Thursday Night Football next. It's a terrible look ahead spot for them coming into this game as favorites at home, which they don't have a great home field advantage. So you see some Giants fans in the stands here. So why rush some of these players back if they're questionable? We'll see if Williams plays. We'll see if Allen's able to play. I know that he could probably still get cleared if he gets those 2 negative tests, even though it's unlikely. But with those question marks in mind, I think this number is too high. I gave it out at plus 10.5 when it went to 10.5 at Sportsline. But I'm still making it a best bet at plus 10 for the Giants here. I just don't think the Chargers deserve to be favored by a ton of points, really against anyone except for the worst teams in the league, the Houstons, the Jacksonville's. And I don't think the Giants defense is playing badly enough to put them in that category.
Well, I was worried about going head to head with you on another best bet, but now I'm not, because you said that the Chargers shouldn't be favored by 10 points against the worst teams in football. The Giants are one of the worst teams in football. They stink. They stink out loud. I actually kind of like the under here too. I liked it more at 44, obviously, just because it's a key number, and because Mike Williams might end up playing. But I mean, Joe Judge, since he took over the Giants job, is 26-2 to the under. That is 77% to the under, a league best in that time span. This Giants team, there was a fake quote out there, or there's a quote out there from a fake Joe Judge quote on a fake Twitter account. It's like Wesley Steinberg or somebody. He's like a parody of a Giants insider. But every time he tweets something, it's totally believable. Joe Judge was like, asked why he punted. The fake quote was, asked why he punted on 4th and 2 from the opponent's 46. He's like, we are a 3-phase team, and we wanted to make sure that we got that third phase involved early and got him involved often. It's like, oh my God, this guy really, and you read it like 3 times before you can even realize it's a fake quote. It sounds like something real that Joe Judge would do. So I have no interest in backing Joe Judge and the Giants or Jake Fromm. A pass rush can get after him, and if he has to throw, it's going to be a problem for them against that Charger secondary, especially if Chris Harris plays. Even without Keenan Allen, I think the Chargers can stretch the field. I have the Chargers as a best bet, -10. The Saints, 5-point favorites at the Jets with an over-under of 43. Both teams coming off ugly losses as home dogs. The Saints are on their first 5-game losing streak since 2005. They're also 0-5 in that stretch. Alvin Kamara likely back for the first time since week 9. Worth noting over that 5-game stretch, obviously Jameis Winston didn't play any of those games. Alvin Kamara missed 4. Mark Ingram missed 1. Adam Troutman 2. Ryan Ramczyk 2. Teron Armstead 3. Andrews Pete 5. Marcus Davenport 2. I mean, they were littered with injuries, Pete. Can they bounce back and try to salvage a season as big favorites on the road against the Jets?
They're getting some guys back, and Kamara's getting back, like you mentioned, but I think they can. I mean, look, the biggest losses has been the tackles, Ramczyk and Armstead. Not having your tackles, you can't block. And I don't care who's the running back. You're going to have all kinds of problems. And even with Taysom Hill at quarterback, I still think they can go in. And when you saw the Jets game last week, they made Gardner Minshew look good. And we know he isn't any good. And so I think that even Taysom Hill, who's bad, by the way, can't throw the ball at all, can move the ball with his legs, maybe hit a couple shot passes down the field. I'll take the Saints minus the points in this one, not as a best bet.
I have the best bet with the Saints -5. Taysom struggled passing, especially after suffering the injury, but he still managed 400 yards of offense versus a good defense. Now he's facing the Jets, who, like you said, Minshew went up and down the field. They had 7 straight scoring drives to start that game. And then the 8th one, they were way ahead, and they just punted, and that was game over. So I think here for Taysom, it's going to be much easier facing this defense that couldn't stop Minshew at all. Jets offense played great to start that game. Then they fell apart after their first 3 drives. So if they're getting better week by week, maybe they have 4 good drives in them this week. But I don't know that I'm counting on too much from the Jets here. To get right spot for slumping New Orleans team, getting extra rest. Watch the injury report for the offensive tackles. Obviously, Armstead, I believe, started the week limited at practice, so he looks like he's a little bit further on Ramczyk. But getting at least one of those guys back will work wonders for that offensive line, especially with Kamara coming back too. So New Orleans on that 5-game losing streak. There's, when you see teams losing 5 straight games, they're typically not favored by 5.5, 6 points on the road. There's a reason for it. That's how bad the Jets are. So I have the Saints as a best bet at -5.
I took the Jets, I think, on the site, and I don't feel good about it. I tend to agree with RJ on that injury report thing. Like, that's sort of what matters more than anything to me. If the Saints get back to full health or whatever you want to describe it, is with where they have enough guys, they have some tackles back, they have Kamara back, any sort of weapons. Deontay Harris has suspended a few games, but they're clearly a much better team than the Jets. And the defense for the Saints, I'm not sure how the Jets score on them. I feel like the 43 is kind of a high total. That feels like that could go under as well. There's just something stinky about this game in general that I don't want to mess with. So I don't have a best bet on it.
2 bad teams. How about that? That's pretty stinky.
Yeah. Oh, but I will point out it's on CBS, so that's exciting for everybody. So I'm sure it'll be a great game. Who gets stuck having to call this game from like our announcing crew? Like, that's not the Nance Romo game, right? Like, dude, I don't know who's calling it. Being a professional NFL announcer is an awesome job. But if you get if Kevin Harlan, they're like, hey, Kevin, you're going to call Jets Saints. Are you like, oh, come on, man. Come on. Anyway, I should probably move on before I get fired. Bears at the Packers. Packers -12.5. My goodness. Over under 43. This is the first time the Bears have been double-digit dogs to the Packers since 2013, which is like a shocking number. I would not have believed that if you had told me that, because the Bears have just been mediocre. The most interesting aspect of this game to me, Pete, is that the last time these teams played in Soldier Field, Aaron Rodgers scores a rushing touchdown, runs over to some Bears fan, gives him the double bird, and he screams, I own you! I own you!
Well, he said a couple other words into that.
Well, yeah. I bleep and own you. And then this week, Aaron Rodgers was asked, he was like, do you regret your comments about I own you? And Rodgers' response, like Rodgers already hates the media right now, except for the Pat McAfee show. And congratulations to Pat on his lucrative contract with FanDuel. Rodgers said, he's like, look, I mean, first of all, it was like said in the heat of a game. So it wasn't like he said it at a press conference. But then he replied, he goes, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The stats back it up, don't they? I mean, do the stat. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess so. With this game, Rodgers he can tie Bart Starr for the most wins all time by a Packers quarterback against the Bears. So he can literally own the I own you thing. It's 12.5. It's a ton of points, but it's in prime time. Rodgers is pissed off. He's like gunning for the number 1 seed. And now everybody's made him angry about the I own you comments. Pete, do you think that he unleashes on Chicago here?
I do. I do. And I almost made this a best bet, but I didn't. I mean, the history, it just tells you what he's going to do to him. I mean, he's dominated. I mean, he's not wrong when he says he's owned them. And the Bears offensively are awful. And the Packers are, getting guys back maybe in this game. They're getting healthier. And they're coming off a bye. I mean, it all shapes up well for Green Bay to blow them out. So, yeah, I'll take – in fact, add it in. I like the Packers as a best bet. Add it in.
Well, put it in the parlay. Yeah, we don't have any picks for the parlay, by the way.
No, we will. We'll get them. By the way, Andrew Catalan and James Lofton calling the Jets-Saints game this week. So
Godspeed, gentlemen. 2 good announcers. Drew the short end of the stick here. But, hey, you know what? Maybe it's close to home. It's in New York, so then maybe that'll be easier.
My suggestion for the parlay is we each pick our favorite pick and throw it in, and we'll make the 3 that way instead of trying to agree on 3 because It seems like lowest common denominator. We always pick some stuff that loses because we're like, I kind of like this.
Good point. I like it.
Figure out your best pick, and we'll throw that in the parlay at the end. You added it in as a best bet. I had it as a best bet the whole time. Green Bay minus 12.5. Huge spread considering the lowest total. But Green Bay, you talked about their history against Chicago. What about this year? They're a cover machine at home. They're 10-2 against the spread this year, 5-0 against the spread at home. If not for the Vikings loss, which was a close game that could go either way, they would have covered 11 straight. Chicago just 1-6 against the spread in their last 7. Their defense gives up a bunch of points, even if the yards allowed is solid. It's not like Kyler Murray went up and down the field on that game. He was 11 for 15, and his yardage wasn't that great. And the Cardinals still scored 33 because Chicago was just letting people score points at will. I think the only chance Chicago has is with Justin Fields, and they kind of identified that he looks like he's going to play this game, quote unquote, medically cleared. And I think the medical clearance came from Matt Nagy trying to save his job because he's going to get fired if he doesn't win any games down the stretch. And he feels like Fields probably gives him the best chance to win. But I think the rest of the coaching staff is updating resumes. They're not really thinking about saving their jobs. They're thinking about where they're going next. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're checked out here. So Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers owns this team. He gets a win either way. Either the team he is the owner of gets a win or he gets a win himself. So I think he's going to just roll in this game and prove that he was right with that quote. And I have best bet Green Bay minus 12.5. All
right. Well, I would actually I want to add the Packers too. Give me the Packers the best bet as well. I almost put them in there. And I was worried my card was too big, but I'll add the Packers as well. Who wants to claim the Packers as their best bet in the parlay since we have all 3 agreement here?
We'll see. We'll see down the road. We'll see who has that number 1. No, I have a different one for number 1 that I'm sure someone's going to hate, but
well, then I'll take Pete, do you want the Packers?
No, I'll tell you. No, I added them in. I got other best bet.
All right, I'll take the Packers then. I mean, I don't care. Somebody's got to take the Packers. I think all 3 of us have them. Let's take the Packers. So Packers minus 12.5.
The whole point was when we agree on picks, they lose. So, I mean, you don't have to take them. If you take whatever your number 1 pick is.
All right. Well, look.
Yeah, but what happens, RJ, if his number 1 pick is opposite of your number 1 pick?
That's what I'm saying.
Then whoever gets it first gets it. Or we cancel each other out and move to number 2.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, here's what we'll do. After we finish, we got 3 more games. After we finish those games, we'll rip through the parlay and give it out. That's a more natural way to do it anyway.
Okay.
Falcons at Panthers. Panthers minus 2.5. Over under 42.5 of the win. Matt Ryan can tie Drew Brees for the most wins in Bank of America Stadium by an opposing quarterback. Just 17, which I guess is a lot, but I guess they only play there once a year. Anyway, the Panthers just lost, obviously, opposing quarterback. Cam Newton holds the most number of wins. The Panthers just lost CMC, Christian McCaffrey, for the season and fired Joe Brady over their bye week. How are you going to get fired on your day off, Joe? Carolina is 0-10 in the last 10 games with Cam Newton starting, but this line is creeping towards 3. Pete, can Matt Ryan, what are we salvaging here? I don't know who's salvaging what. What do you think about this game? It's a stinky game.
I hate the game, but I'd lean to Carolina because I just think that maybe they'll get a little juiced up with the run game with firing Joe Brady, and their defense is good. And so I think Atlanta's offensive line was back to getting abused last week after playing pretty well against Jacksonville. I think they're going to get abused in this game. I'd take the Panthers minus the 2.5. It's not a best bet, though.
You said it's creeping up toward 3. It's creeping down. It was 3 earlier in the week. Came down to 2.5 minus 120. Now it's minus 115. Might go a little lower. We'll see. It seems like it's going to be a low-scoring game. Carolina's offense has easier tests coming out of the bye against Atlanta, but I don't expect fireworks as they want to run. It seems like that was the issue with the offense. Fire Joe Brady because we're not a power run team, because that's what you want to be with Christian McCaffrey, I guess, and DJ Moore. So maybe to work out, but I need to see it to believe it. Atlanta's offense collapsed in the first meeting against this Carolina defense, only 213 yards in a 19-13 loss. I expect a similar game here where Carolina probably wins. Neither team gets to 20, so it's probably a field goal game either way. Lower scoring game favors the dog, so I agree lean Panthers, I would probably lean Falcons, but you could go 3 either way, so I could see the Panthers winning. So I'm probably better on the under here, even though it's down to 42 now. It had been 43, and it creeped down to 42.5 for our picks. And I almost put it in at 42.5. Now it's down to 42. So I'm just staying away from this game. It'll be an ugly game. I don't really want to watch anything to do with this game. Yeah,
unfortunately, I always have a channel or a TV dedicated to the local game here because I got the HD antenna up, and it's just always the Panthers. And boy, is it not fun to watch this team. So I'm going to bet on the under, or take the under as a best bet. I actually already bet on it. I think I got it at 43 earlier in the week, maybe 43.5. 42.5 is fine. I agree with you, RJ. It's creeping down for sure. That's a little nerve wracking. But if you look at again, you mentioned it with Matt Rule. He made it very clear that he wants to run the crap out of the ball. I like the over on Cam Newton rush yards in this spot because I think they'll use a ton of Cam's legs. He's on a 1 year. They don't care about running Cam into the ground. I don't think Cam cares about running him into the ground. He wants touchdowns. He wants to look like he can perform next year. So a team will sign him. Maybe it'll be the Panthers. We'll see. Chuba Hubbard. Amir Abdullah will get a bunch of carries. I think Hubbard will get more because they won't be passing quite as much, but that remains to be seen. They're going to try and grind this game. That's Matt Rule's. That is what he wants to have happen. And the Falcons are perfectly fine with a little 17-14 game, or even 10-7 wouldn't be surprising. I think this game goes way under. I've got the under 42.5 as a best bet. Next up. Oh my God, these games stink. The Seahawks Seahawks minus 7.5 at the Texans, over under 41.5. It's kind of a red flag, Pete, honestly, that Seattle is only minus 7.5 because Russell Wilson actually got it going last week against San Francisco after 3 weeks of just 56% passing, completed 81% of his passes. Thought we saw a little more sharp Russ in that game, even if Seattle got a little lucky. Do you think they roll into Houston and take care of business against the Texans?
This was a tough one for me because the number is so big on the road, and they put so much into that game last week. But I do think they'll win the game, and I'll take them minus the points because I'm not taking the Texans. I think the Zach Cunningham situation is going to, be a problem again. You're getting rid of one of your better players, and granted, he hasn't played to the expectations.
They signed him to an extension like a year and a half ago.
Right, but he hasn't played up to it. But
sure.
Still, come on. Give me a break. And
so your roster's not good enough to be dumping guys that
No, they're going to start quitting more so than they have been. They're not a good team, and so I would take Seattle minus the points. It's just a big number for what isn't exactly a very good team either.
Yeah, I want to lay this many points with an offense I don't believe in. I locked it in as the second half of my teaser. I've had this open teaser with Denver all show, and Seahawks are the other leg at minus 1.5 because we picked it at 7.5. Obviously, you guys can't get the teaser if you're listening to this now. If Denver's still minus 10, and I wouldn't tease Denver at 10. So if you're looking to tease Seattle with somebody else, maybe you look in a different direction. But I think they win this game. Russ finally looks healthy, but they didn't play well. Offensively in that game, just 3.8 yards per play, like I said earlier, but they're going to score against a terrible Houston team. Going to be a lot of ball control. They're sitting on a second half lead, running the ball like they want to do. And I don't know that they get over the 7.5. Now it's up to 8.5. That's a lot of points to cover. But that Houston offense is unsalvageable with Davis Mills, likely starting for injured Tyrod. He has been bad, even though Tyrod has been just as bad since his return. Houston has as many games under 10 points as they do over 10 points. And that's a stat from 2021, not 1963 or whenever he would actually see that week in and week out. So it's incredible how bad this offense has been. Can't trust them to score points. I had this as an under on Sportsline earlier in the week. It's now getting down to 41, a range that I'm not looking to really play it because who knows, maybe the Seahawks offense clicks and they score a ton of points. But I have much more confidence teasing the Seahawks in this game than I do anything else to do with this spread or total.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. You can feel pretty good about the Seahawks winning this game, although I wouldn't be surprised at all. Pete Carroll was aggressive and did things that he normally doesn't do, fake punts that went for a house call. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he got back to just pounding the ball and felt like they could win easily against Houston by running the ball 35 times, and that would really open up the back door for the Texans to find a way to score. They're averaging 13.6 points. It is an incredibly low number, but. And I don't think they're going to, don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to start just, clicking or anything, but I feel like they could get to 20 or 17. And if they do that, I feel like they can come through the back door. So I'm with RJ. If you're teasing it, it's one thing. No interest in playing Seattle, laying that many points. I don't, but no interest in, taking the Texans there either. This is just a game I don't think I'll watch a second of until there's like a deep, DK Metcalf receiving yards is like 51.5 or something. That's a bet right there. This is a squeaky wheel DK Metcalf bomb. You get that in the first quarter on a touchdown pass type of situation. Ravens at Browns. Browns minus 2.5, over under 42.5. Here's a fun fact for you, Pete. Both these teams are tied for third in the NFL in rush yards with 1,765. It's kind of crazy. Two AFC North teams tied exactly at third. The Browns are this game opened as Baltimore -1, and it has drifted all the way. It looks like it's going to close with the Browns laying 3 if it continues to move, although maybe there's some buyback there if Baltimore gets to +3. Who do you like in this game?
I'm going to take the Browns. Coming off the bye, I think they're the rested team. The Ravens played that physical game last week against the Steelers. Shouldn't have gone for 2. I'll sit there and say that time and time again. I know you disagree with me, but I hated that call. And everybody goes, it was a perfect call. He was open. Well, guy plays defense too, and you got to throw around him. I didn't like the call. You have the better kicker. Your offense had just went down right down the field to score. I would have gone to overtime. They didn't. They lost. They also lost Marlon Humphrey in that game. And their offensive line is not very good right now. I think Garrett is going to have a field day here. I think the Browns will run the ball. I'm going to take the Browns minus the 2.5. The number looks funky, but I'm going to take the Browns minus 2.5.
Yeah, it was Baltimore -1. Everybody hammered Cleveland, and I would have taken Cleveland at that number. 2.5, it just seems like so much of a swing that I don't want to lay the 2.5 now. They lost to Baltimore in the last game, then they had the bye to stew on it and get healthier. That's big for Baker, especially with all the injuries he's been dealing with. Conklin also lost for the year in that game. That lowers the ceiling of the offense to me. We saw that they struggled when he was out before he came back. Baltimore also, like you said, lost Humphrey for the year. It should be easier to pass on them. Could be a big day for Landry and even some of the secondary receivers here. I don't know how many points Baltimore scores in this game. Offense has been bad for a month. So with that look ahead steaming all the way to Cleveland, it seems like everybody's on Cleveland right now. And it probably will get to 3. At 3, maybe there's a little value on Baltimore, but I'm probably just staying away from this game.
Cleveland, yeah, I mean Cleveland minus 2.5, a little too high, especially that 115. And 3, definitely a little bit higher than I'd want to take. I would have. They were right there in terms of games that could have gotten onto my best bets, but ended up not happening. I do like the Browns a lot here, and I agree with Pete. We see a run game where Nick Chubb gets loose. They're coming off the bye. They should be healthier. They should be more. Kevin Stefanski has a fantastic record off a loss. They're coming off the bye. Baltimore banged up. You lose Marlon Humphrey. It's a team that's just sort of, they're finding ways to win. They're 2-2 despite averaging like 17 points per game their last 4 games. It's a Baltimore team that's sort of holding things together with Scotch tape. It's a testament to Lamar Jackson's skill, and maybe more importantly, John Harbaugh's coaching ability. So give me Cleveland just missed on the best bets. All right, that is it for the games. Let's figure out the parlay. Pete,
So I'll pick my best bet.
you pick your best bet, and once you pick it, RJ cannot go. Obviously, can't go against it. That would be really stupid. And then so you pick one, and then we'll go from there. Who you got?
Washington +4.
Ooh, spicy. All right, so that's the first game in the parlay. Were you going to go Dallas, RJ?
No, I'm taking Tampa Bay -3.5.
All right. Washington +4, Tampa Bay -3.5. That's your work cut out for you here, Debo. And then I will take the Titans -8.5. So no Packers on there after all. Here's a recap of all the best bets. Prisco's best bets. Titans -8.5. Lions +8.5. Washington +4. Chiefs -9.5. Bills-Bucs over 53.5. Cardinals Rams under, I believe that's 51.5. And Packers -12.5. RJ's best bets. Tampa Bay -3.5. Arizona -2.5. Las Vegas +9.5. The Giants +10. New Orleans -5. Green Bay -12.5, and a teaser making Denver down to 2.5 and Seattle down to 1.5. Brinson's best bets. Rams +2.5. Washington +4. Bills +3.5. Falcons-Panthers under 42.5. Chargers -10. 49ers -1. Short card. Titans -8.5. Lions-Broncos under 42. And Packers -12.5.
How many picks do you have?
I got a lot. Got 9 picks there. You told me I had 5 was too few. So I got 9. I got Chase here.
By the way, you two are
I like the card.
You two are going to be cannibalizing each other this week. You're opposite on a bunch of them. That means RJ's in for a good week.
Yeah.
It's fade Brinson week. Brinson's been solid too many weeks in a row. It's fade Brinson week.
That's right. It's probably a fade Brinson.
You're opposite on the Chargers. You're opposite on the Chargers Giants. You're opposite on the Bucs Bills. And you're opposite on, I think there's one.
Rams, Cardinals, and he likes Dallas too, but I don't know if you made him a best bet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And then again, the podcast parlay finally due to hit after so many misses. Now that we found a new format for it, is Bucs -3.5, Washington +4, Titans -8.5. All right, we're due.
We should add a fourth team in the Packers. And we owe the fans a big parlay.
We can't hit you in 2 of these in a week, and you're still like pining for 4 every single week.
Well, because we owe the fans, and we pick this thing every week, and it hasn't come in once. We owe them.
If we're gonna add a 4th team, Debo has to pick the 4th team. He's the 4th guy.
Wow,
he has to pick it.
The pressure on Debo.
Debo?
He's like,
all right. I'm not picking the Packers. There's too much agreement there.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
Let's go.
You can't pick the Eagles.
Raiders +9.5.
Ooh.
If we go 3-0 and the Raiders lose, we gotta.
I honestly just looked at RJ's list and picked one
maybe
of those.
do a progressive parlay. How about that? Or a round robin parlay. Anywho. That's it. That's the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Smash that like button if you haven't done it yet. Appreciate you guys as always.
Send in those reviews and tell everybody how much you hate me.
Well, some of those are popping up. We'll clip and save them, but don't worry, there are plenty for me too. As Jimmy Underwood says, fade Brinson, please. There you go. Thanks, Jimmy. Oh no! Somebody says, "Are you a turtle that was turned into a man?"
Oh, me?
Oh my god!
I'm seeing you, buddy. I'm kidding.
Me too, Temecula. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later.